Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share my first update on my experience with the Samsung Galaxy Book Pro 360. This is the 15.6-inch version, $1,500 US, a 15.6-inch Full HD 16:9 OLED display, which I do think is very nice, but it does have some drawbacks, particularly the high gloss finish. Not a huge fan of that, and it doesn't get very bright, under 300 nits of brightness. While this machine reads like perfection on paper, that hasn't been my experience thus far. But it is still only 3 pounds and under a ½ inch and $1,500 US, which for the sum of its parts seems to be a relative bargain between its 1165 G7, again, 16 gigs of RAM, a ½ terabyte, and having Thunderbolt 4 on board, and of course, an S Pen. But let's take a look and listen to the display and speakers. So a little video on YouTube, here we go. Everything is maxed out. Brightness, audio, the full deal. And you'll see some of that glare right now. And here we touch upon another issue, which has been Wi-Fi performance. Now, I have an Orbi Wi-Fi 6 mesh system, and it is not perfect, but I have been having issues with the Samsung. Well, to be more specific, this Samsung. Don't have any issues with my phones, don't have any issues with my Galaxy Tab S7 Plus, but with the Galaxy Book Pro 360, things have not been perfect. And you see I'm continuing to have problems. Now, this doesn't happen every time, but it's happening now. And it's relevant and relative. You know, I've gone through a lot of Windows updates. There could be more updates that we need. But this is one of yet another issues I wanted to share, and here we have it. So, things to take away from this. Don't decide that the Wi-Fi can't function, but I will tell you that initially when I was testing out wireless connectivity, the speeds I was getting were not decent. And I'm in the same room as the router. That's number one. It's in the studio. Number two, after some Windows updates addressing wireless connectivity, things did improve slightly, but I still am not seeing the full draw, and we're still buffering that I have the full throughput of my wireless connection, which basically on any Wi-Fi 6 laptop like this gets full throughput, which is about 500 down and over 20 up. Here, I'm not seeing it. In fact, I can't even get this clip to run, so that gives you an idea of what we're talking about. If that didn't give you enough on the audio and video, I'll get to it another day. Beyond the highly reflective Full HD panel, the next thing I want to talk about is the keyboard. And I'm going to go wide for this. Sorry you didn't get the full multimedia experience, but I'm going to do as well as I can to give you everything that at least I know so far. The most impressive thing about this laptop at this point, in my opinion, is build quality and the hardware you're getting. However, this incredibly compact footprint, as well as the price point, I think has led to some corners being cut. The S Pen so far, really nice. Love that we've got the integration of what you would have from a Samsung Galaxy Note device. Love it. I mean, this is great. This is a step in the right direction, and if you are a Note user, this is instantly going to be something you love. There's no question about it. At the same time, while this is taking a little while to load, and it did take a little while, that's another thing that I'm concerned about. Now, the performance here, if you are actually using this in a more comfortable position than I am right now, it's very good. It has that same tactile feel like you're writing on paper, a little bit of resistance that you get with something like, the Note line or the Note 20 Ultra or the Tab S7 Plus. However, excuse the terrible handwriting, the wobbly hinge, the wobble that you see there, it may be a deal breaker for some of you. For me, it's kind of unacceptable, especially on a 2-in-1. I review a lot of ultrabooks, a lot of 2-in-1s, and there are very few that have this hinge issue. The last machine with a hinge issue like this was the Aero 15, but that I can give a pass because it's not touchscreen and it's definitely not a 2-in-1. So you're not going to be touching the display to induce the wobbling. Here, this is meant to be touched. Samsung, you can't have a wobbly display on something that's meant to be touched. I don't know what else to say. So, recapping in short, high gloss display, low brightness. I love OLEDs. Anyone who thinks otherwise doesn't know me, hasn't watched my channel, and doesn't realize how long I've been interested in and supported and owned OLEDs. We're talking about my first iRiver MP3 video player, okay, which was the first product on Earth, essentially, to sport an OLED display. And that dates me a little bit. But the display is a little bit underwhelming. It still looks really good. Like the upscaled 4K video, it has played back smoothly, and it's looked great. In fact, you may not even be able to tell you're watching a 1080p panel. But the high gloss, low brightness, and wobble, not good. The webcam seems to be, like everybody else, terrible. And that was something where I had higher expectations of Samsung because, well, the Tab S7 Plus, our phones, if you're a Samsung Galaxy phone user, they all have better cameras than what's in here. And I get it. You know, they think that it's a corner that's cut by all PC manufacturers, so why can't they join the club? Samsung, you don't need to join the club. You can own the club if you choose to. But with the corner cutting there, again, not in love with it. Fingerprint scanner works perfectly. That I'm not surprised by because they are one of the largest smartphone manufacturers in the world, so I expect competency there. Trackpad, very nice, definitely large enough. Keyboard doesn't have as much travel as I'd like, but nonetheless works as, I mean, I wouldn't shy away from recommending this because of the keyboard. It's just not as good as what you'll find with Lenovo or HP or Vio. Okay, but this is a $1,500 machine, so we got to put that into perspective. The same applies to the 13-inch version. It's even less expensive. RAM is soldered, NVMe drive is upgradable, so that's nice. It is easy to get into. I don't know that I'll do a video about it, but not a big deal to pull off the 4 rubber feet and open up the screws and take apart the chassis. The next thing I want to talk about is battery life, okay? Now, right now, it's estimating 17 hours and 49 minutes with 92% remaining. Well, that is bullshit. I want to tell you it's going to get 10 hours, but in the use that I've seen so far, it doesn't look like it can. And that's with the display at full brightness. Now, could we get 10 hours if I took it down to 50%? Yeah, probably. But with the peak brightness on this display being as low as it is, remember, under 300 nits, do you really want to operate with this all the way down? Are you into looking at screens that have nothing on them? That's a good question. So for me, when you say operating at 50% brightness, if the brightness peaked at 500 nits, different conversation. This is yet another corner cut. So I don't have a firm grip on battery life yet, but it looks like reviewers that have been saying they're getting 10 hours of battery life out of this, I would love to know what they're doing. I'm not, taking anyone's feet to the fire here, but something is fishy. And anyone who's watching this video already knows I have no affiliation with Samsung. That may change, but at the time of the filming of this is not a review unit that was sent by them. Not that that would change anything. I have not been paid. So this is just something I purchased and I'm reviewing as I often do on this channel. A lot of stuff gets sent to me. A lot of stuff I purchase. It really depends. Depends how compelling things are. And this seemed to be a winner. Now, firmware updates are still coming in on this. It's only been, day one. So more things will likely change. But right now, it looks like the display is underwhelming. And it seems like I'm going to be the first critic, and everyone thinks I'm a Samsung fanboy. I appreciate good tech, but I do not show favoritism. Call it like it is. Display is underwhelming, even though it's an OLED. I would have loved to have seen 4K, but that's not even the problem. The problem is the brightness. The problem is how much glare we're getting from this high gloss finish. I can't even imagine what this will be like outside. Forget it. I mean, this is designed to be the pandemic in your house laptop for sure. Okay. Number two, the Wi-Fi issues I'm having, I hope are just, a fluke. Let's hope. And then I've already stated, keyboard, trackpad, overall build quality outside of the wobble is good. Webcam, not special. Battery life is suspect. So we know the Intel processor in here, the 1165G7, is competent. We know the 16 gigs of RAM is perfectly competent as well. We know that the Iris Xe graphics, even though I haven't tested games yet, that'll be coming next. I'm not worried about those things. But if, again, corners had to be cut in order to pull off this profile, I would have rather them not do it. And right now, that's what it's seeming like. Still think it's a really sharp-looking machine. It does get dirty really fast. I thought, look at that. I mean, less than 1 day's use, and it looks like I've owned it for 6 weeks. And I don't clean up after myself. But it is a really nice machine. I'm not going to take away from that. Having Thunderbolt 4 on here is fantastic. No Type A port rubs me the wrong way. I know some of you may not care. You cannot open this one-handed, so don't try, even though there's a lip. It's too light. You're not going to get that out of these sort of things. Love that it has a card reader, you know, but again, connectivity, it's enough. Remember, it's $1,500. And for those of you asking about comparing this to things like the Spectre or the 9i line, you know, the Yoga 2-in-1, I can tell you right now, those reviews, those comparisons will come. But the taste I'm getting so far here from Samsung, unfortunately, is you get what you pay for. Now, I didn't dive into the pen functionality and how much Note users are going to really appreciate it. I mentioned it briefly, and the fact that they also, this is magnetic, but like it can't stay on well. And right there, it's holding pretty well, but enough movement, it generally falls off. So this is another odd thing. Why they wouldn't create some sort of magnetic grip to the side somewhere. I know that everything is incredibly thin, so there's not a lot of surface area. We do have a flat side to this pen. So they could have made it possible for it to attach somewhere, but outside of the lid, which is not stable, there isn't really a place to put this. So, no matter how good the S Pen experience is going to be, and in the little bit of testing, I already really like it, and an inking video is absolutely coming, and it is using some of the best technology in the biz. That's what I expect from a Note laptop, which is essentially what this is, no matter what Samsung calls it, Galaxy Book Pro 360, it doesn't matter. This is a Note laptop at its finest. However, it's not, unfortunately, delivering the experience that I know that I would get out of an HP or Lenovo. Granted, they may be more expensive, they may not. For those of you that have been asking about a direct comparison to the Spectre X360 15T, you're going to get it. I just, you know, capped reviewing it the other day. And they are comparable in price. So while at face value this seems like a bargain, Samsung is showing that PC manufacturing isn't their strong suit. And I keep hoping that they're going to change the game. You know, they've been making laptops for years now, but they are not heavily vested. And I guess it keeps them nimble, it keeps them fit, it keeps them profitable. Get too heavily vested in this and they might end up in a sinkhole. I understand that completely. But this, it has the look, it has the feel, it's premium, it's priced right. But the problems I'm having right now out of the gate, and the display being this underwhelming from the largest OLED manufacturer other than LG on Earth. Granted, they don't make any TVs yet, but they've been making OLEDs for mobile devices for, well, I don't know, longer than anyone. It's concerning. So this may sound like, you know, I'm just ragging on this thing all day long. If you watched my unboxing, you know how excited I was to start using it. And unfortunately, it's just not delivering what I thought it would be able to do. And I'll try one more time, just for the hell of it. We'll go over to YouTube and we'll see, you know, what it can do. We'll see if now it wants to cooperate. I'll just put in 4K HDR. Let's see what comes up. Costa Rica again. I'm going to give Costa Rica one more shot. We'll watch an ad together, okay? And the audio I didn't talk about. You know, I don't have high expectations for the audio. People who do, I feel, are being unrealistic. Did I just cast that accidentally? Hopefully not. You know, now it seems to be working, which is great. But the fact that there are Wi-Fi issues is not something I'm going to overlook with all of you. It's just not going to happen. Not going to let that slide. And I'm interested to see, you know, any of you that have purchased this, please give me feedback in the comments. I want to know if you're experiencing Wi-Fi issues with this as well. It could just be the way, you know, the Wi-Fi 6 chip is sitting on the board. It is soldered, to my knowledge, so it is not upgradable. And it is the type of thing that could be a killer. But listen to the audio. I'll shut up. Even though it's just music. And God, so much glare. And it does look blown out simply because even with the brightness being so low on this laptop, it is an OLED. Let us not forget. So I just brought it down a little bit. And even though it looks dark to me, on camera, it's going to look pretty choice. And this is a good example of when this thing is working well. And that's when it gets impressive. And don't forget, it's all of 3 pounds. So I think, you know, if this thing starts to get more stable, if we see that we can really get 10 hours of battery life, I think that most of what I mentioned here will be nitpicks that we'll all forget. But if not, then unfortunately this is looking like not dead on arrival, but the better choices already exist. And it's a good try, but not what I was hoping for. So hopefully I'm wrong. I don't want to be right about this because I want Samsung to continue to create parity and competition in a segment where right now it's pretty tight. Microsoft really started the trend, has, in my opinion, faded away. Hopefully they'll come back. But right now, Sammy poses the biggest threat to the big boys in the business. And this offering, if it gets more stable, it'll be exactly that. If it doesn't, then, as I said, you get what you pay for, and this is all about marketing and branding and the fact that it's tied into the Galaxy brand ecosystem, more so than that it's a great 2-in-1 option here in 2021. On paper, it seems amazing. When you feel it in your hands, it has that quality feel that most Samsung products do. But the battery life and the Wi-Fi connectivity are giving me some early concerns. Hopefully, those go away as I spend more time with it, and we will get deep, as I said, into the S Pen inking and that experience, which I do think will be best in class because it does have all of the capability there. It's just other things that don't seem to add up yet, and that's why I will reiterate, $1,500 price point, they're making money there. Don't forget it. And that webcam, ooh, come on, Sammy. That's another one. I could forgive the wobbly hinge, even though it makes me convulse a little bit, but the webcam, it's Samsung. Come on. That's just, I understand when HP and Lenovo don't step up to the plate on the webcam quality, but Samsung, they have more of those tiny sensors than anyone on earth. Any question? Well, they make them. I was going to say Apple inclusive, but any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button. And as usual, please feel free to subscribe. And please stay safe. Later.